All right, welcome everyone to the RSP Film Room. It's been a while that we've had a guest on the show, and I've been wanting to get this guy on for quite a while. I've just been in the middle of a move, as you can see. The first thing I did with our move was just basically plant the desk here, get all my stuff together so that I can watch tape until April, May, and then once May clears out, this room may not have my mom, Sigmund Bloom, nagging me to clean it. So if you hear that, Sigmund, yes, I meant that. So, but anyway, to welcome our guest is one and only Michael Kist. You can find him, the BGN radio producer, host, and writer of Bleeding Green. Hey, man, welcome to the show.
I am so excited as a longtime fan of this series and of your work. Respect the heck out of it. And really excited to do this with you. It's been a while. We've been meaning to watch film for a bit now, so this is great. I'm excited.
Yeah, I would joke that it's dated as far back as Travis Henry, but neither of us, I think, were doing it back then. But Derek, I think, would suffice because we certainly talked about him in this summer, and we just neither of us connected enough to be able to do it. But
yeah.
But hey, look, we decided. I asked you. We got a chance to say hello at the Senior Bowl, and it was kind of like we got to do this. And I was like, who do you want to watch? And he was like, how about your guy, Bruce Anderson? So it was like, all right, so we'll watch another running back instead. So what was it about Bruce Anderson that had you interested in wanting to do this show with him?
Yeah, I mean, as I was going through his tape, you started to appreciate it the more that you watched the consistency in his reps, the power that he had, the leg churn, and then you start to see like flashes of things that aren't readily apparent throughout his entire film. You get to certain games, you don't see any of it. Then you get to other games and you see a receiving element start to pop out. And he might not even be getting the targets on those, but you're like, he looks really comfortable doing this. And then you go back even further. And, as an Eagles fan with Carson Wentz, someone asked me, did Bruce play with Carson? And I look back 2015, there he is in the playoffs. I believe he's in the quarterfinals against Northern Iowa, taking a kick return back. It's a play we'll probably watch here. And having that element too, the track background, the honor roll background, the character looks great. Like he checks a lot of boxes for me, and I feel like he's not a prospect that's talked about enough. He's a combine snub, but he's someone I think that you can get early production out of. So I'm excited to watch him with you.
Yeah, he's one of several combine snubs at the running back position that I find extremely curious. We could add Darwin Thompson to the mix and Patrick and Jock Patrick to the list as well. So yeah. I mean, those are guys I'm sitting here looking at and going, okay, who picked these guys? Who picked the lot that they had, and what happened here? They have a quota of running backs. I guess they don't matter. That's what it was.
Well, there were 32 running backs last year at the combine. You're telling me there's 32 running backs better than Bruce Anderson, better than Darwin Thompson, better than the guy out of Nebraska, Divine Ezigbo? I don't believe that whatsoever. Not from what I've seen.
Yeah, me neither. I'd say all those guys are in my top 32 for sure, right. without a doubt. Maybe in my top 16. So, a good bit of them. So where can, before we get more into Bruce Anderson, where can we find you available in terms of social media and the work that you do?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Michael Kist NFL. That's Kist. I do several shows for Bleeding Green Nation podcast. You can follow them at BGN_radio. I do a quarterback focus show with your friend Mark Schofield, my friend as well. Awesome dude. Do the Kist and Solak show with Benjamin Solak. He's on Twitter at Benjamin Solak. He's a great follow, good young mind, and just doing a lot of that stuff. BleedingGreenNation.com. I have a lot of writing up there. I'm starting to put out my top 5 positional groupings for positions of need for the Eagles as I work through this class, but that's where you can find pretty much all of my stuff right now.
Yeah, and Michael obviously does great work, and it's fun to and the people that he associates with aren't too shabby either. So Solak aside,
never be the smartest man in the room.
Right. We'll have to get Solak on here at some point too, because obviously, and more of those draft network guys, because I've had Kyle Krabs on once. I'd like to get Joe on.
I saw that.
And I'd like to have some, go from there. But obviously Ben's a good guy and does fine work. So we'll see if we can get him on here as well. But when we were at the Senior Bowl, Bruce Anderson was there briefly. And when he was in, I was somewhat impressed with a lot of the things that he did. The quickness, the shiftiness was there. I thought no one could really cover him until, on drills until he got hammered
Thanks.
Yeah, because they just was like, I had enough of this business. Let me just go ahead and run up to the line and attack you before you can get a step off, which
Yeah.
to me was a form of respect, basically, that no one could cover him.
Yeah, he had a few reps. He won 3 reps in a row, just clean, hit the break point, and was zipping out of there. Really explosive, showed natural hands. It was exactly what you wanted to see because that element, again, you may have missed it if you didn't watch a lot of his film. And I was excited about that. And then, like you said, Terrell Hanks, the New Mexico State linebacker slash safety convert, who's real aggressive. Just he came out to his break, pops him. It's whatever. There were some other aspects, and there's a reason I picked some clips for this with the pass protection drills where he kind of struggled. However, what I saw on film, I thought it was pretty solid, so I don't have too much of a concern there. But from what we saw from him at the Senior Bowl, it's a weird place for running backs to shine because there's no not a whole lot of contact and like traditional running style plays that are set up for that kind of thing. I was encouraged by the things that I wanted to see from him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I felt the same way. And I think what you touched on is a potential concern, but also what you saw on tape is something that we'll get a chance to watch a little bit more in depth. I picked a good bit of pass pro stuff as a result of that, based on because how this works for anybody who's new is that we're going to sit here and watch tape together, and we picked out clips separately of Bruce Anderson that's available on the internet, and then Michael sent them over to me what he picked. I didn't send any of ones that I picked, but we just figured we'd watch them together and go from there. I don't think any of them will be major surprises in terms of, because I think we've seen pretty much the same stuff. Yeah. But it'll be fun to see what we've each chosen, and we'll rewind and slow things down, and we're going to dig into it in a way that, if you're someone that has a short attention span, or you like your production extremely clean, this is not the show for you. I mean, come on, just look around. So, I mean, so if you got the clean cut guy over here, on this screen, and then you've got Oscar over here. I'm about to pop out of the garbage can. I might be bleeding green, but in a different way. So, with that in mind, the only other question I do have for you is one of the things that you listed on your thing, and I'm a fan of what they do, and I'd like to give them give you an opportunity to talk about your experience with them, and that's the Scouting Academy. Because there are quite a few people who've been alums of that, who've been on the show. Brandon Thorne, John Owning, yourself, Dan's been on the show himself, and I like what the people who I have on who have taken classes with the academy. I've always been very impressed with the work that they do. So I was wondering if you could tell me your experience with that.
Yeah, I mean, it changed the way that I viewed football. I mean, there's no other way to say it. They completely rewired my brain. And I remember the first module that I did was running backs. And I got my first feedback from Dan, which can be a real killer, because you get it back and like there's notes all on the side, and he's basically telling you, without saying it outright, you don't know what you're looking at yet, or you don't know what you want to see yet, as far as what I want to get for someone that you want to communicate the skill set of a player, what he can do for the team. A big focus on what a player can do, what he can do for our team right now, and the different traits, the critical factors that go into completely evaluate back, which was very important. And I still use a lot of the grading and terminology that they use with that system for my current grading formula. I've switched to numerical grading to help me get a better feel for these prospects, break up these stacks that I have. But really just the tutorials that they have, the feedback that you get from Dan just feels more like an organizational level. It gives you a base from which to build your house, and that's extremely important. And at the time, I just wanted to do it because I loved football, and I wanted to understand the game that I loved better. I hadn't considered a career in football at that time, but as I delved more into that course, my appreciation for the game really grew. You start to realize the more you know, the less you really know in the grand scheme of things, and that just kind of propels you to learn more and be an active learner and really educate yourself in the game. So that whole process for me was really, considering where I'm sitting now and what I do now for a living, living, was an absolute life changer for me, and definitely made me a smarter football fan and evaluator as well. And you know, here we are now. I get to talk about football during the day, in the middle of the day, and don't have to worry about a regular job or anything like that. So I would definitely recommend it to anybody that's interested in learning more about the game of football.
Yeah, well, that's great. And, you know, obviously, just to put it out there, I'm not being paid by the Scouting Academy to hawk what they do, but I'm just curious, you know.
I don't get any commission checks either. I should be.
Right. See, there you go. But I mean, but I just thought it interesting. You know, I've certainly seen some things on online occasionally, even some people who I know and like who
Right.
haven't always been complimentary of it. But they're kind of from the Goodwill Hunting school of, I could pay to, you know, $10 in late charges at the library and learn. And I certainly understand that. I mean, I'm not a Scouting Academy alum. I think if I had the time and the money, that I would go and consider it, and I may do that one day. Just because there's lots of things, there's always things to learn, and there's always little time, and the opportunity that if you have the funds to be able to invest in that, and you look at it as an investment where things are going to be organized for you, and it's going to be in a way that you can take advantage of with the time that you do have available. I mean, it's one thing when I was 19, you know, I might have all the time in the world to do this kind of stuff.
Right.
Or if I have a 6-figure job, and I still have all the time in the world with my 6-figure job to go and research this stuff, that's cool. But if you've got a family, you've got a career that's more demanding, you may find that, you know what, I have 2, 3, 4 hour blocks at certain times of the week where I can do this, and other times where my life is absolute madness and I'm just glad to be going to bed at night. So, you know, so I can get why people, you know, find it appealing.
There are people that can do it without the Scouting Academy. Absolutely. I wasn't one of those people. I needed a little kick in the butt. I needed that guidance. That's me, and that process has worked for me. And like you said, with the time factor, it definitely is. It's like having a part-time job of just going through the course. I did it at the time that I did it because my wife was pregnant, and I knew this was the last chance I was going to get to like really focus in on something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And learn a different skill set before the baby, because that's just it's too hectic at that point. But I mean, it worked for me. It can work for other people. Some people don't need it. I will say that another thing that I value as an ancillary benefit is the relationships that I have with the guys who I went through the course with is fantastic. And I really cherish those relationships and those connections as well. I mean, I was in Mobile and I had a Scouting Academy guy PayPal me $100 to buy rounds of drinks for the other Scouting Academy guys that were there. So it's a really tight, cool community, and that's something that I really cherish from my experience there.
That's awesome. And see, I know that you know, Michael does his thing, because I'm sitting here looking at something that I'm very envious of right now, and that's to his right. Yeah, because I can't. My stuff isn't quite up yet, but it's like I'm laughing because I plan on upgrading mine once I get everything unpacked in a few months, because I plan on doing a lot of diagramming over the next few years. So anyway, we've had enough of our little coffee talk here, but I just thought it would be worthwhile to discuss some of this stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the screen. We're going to watch some of Bruce Anderson here and check out what we need to check out. So let's see here. All right, that's me, but we don't want to see me. Hold on for a minute here.
New setup, guys. Stand by.
New setup. Stand by. We may edit this crap out. How about that? There we go. Oh, yes. Share screen. See, it's been a while since I've been doing this. There we go. Let's do screen. You know what? Let's move it over to screen 2, because in that way, everybody can see screen 2. Move that over here. There we go. Pop that in there. And that's screen 1, actually. So let's do screen 1. We'll share screen 1. And yes, I am sharing that. That's in there right there. And we should be able to get this going. So let's put that in there. Can you see everything all right the way it is?
Yeah, it looks good to me.
Okay, cool. So the next question will be, would you like me to go slow-mo with this, or do you want me to try and start off with the
regular speed?
Regular speed.
Yeah, let's do regular speed first, and then typically after the rep, I'll go into slow-mo.
Okay, then we'll do it the old-fashioned way, and let's get it going here. Oh yeah, I remember this play.
Yeah. Yeah, and you just look at the burst that he's got there.
Yeah, we'll watch it one more time all the way through.
Yeah.
What I really appreciate too is the downhill cut
Yeah.
on this play, because that's always when you're going east, west, and north, south. That's always something that I always try and look at in terms of just how maneuverable they are and how they change direction. Let's see what we can get half speed with this. And that's a pretty nice landmark to hit there, as one of his blockers peels off that potential of a double team to the line, to the next guy at the line of scrimmage or beyond the line of scrimmage here. Some added oomph there. And I love the ball security.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
you'll see times where when he gets upfield and he knows.
you there? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Looks like
He's going to meet track. You still got me?
I do. I think I've got you now.
Okay.
So what were you saying?
Yeah. What you see from Bruce a lot is you'll see him when he plants and he gets really mindful of making sure that he doesn't get hit from the side from a funny angle and lose one. So he's really mindful of ball security all the way through the rep, through the traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you see the elbow a little loose at times, but I mean, very rarely do we even see a Tiki Barber like runner.
Yeah.
These days, that's to me kind of the highest standard, is where you can get those 3 points of pressure and you get that elbow really tucked in. But this is as tucked in of an elbow that I've seen from most of the backs in this class, and most backs in any class. You know, so there's room for improvement if you're going to look at the highest standard, but that's pretty darn good.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, you just see a lot of elements of his game just flash in one play. The ability to change direction. No chance that guy's getting him at the end there.
No, absolutely not. And the smoothness in which when he transfers kind of that speed to power or leverage right here.
Yep. Yeah, he's getting he's getting head up and he gives himself a two-way go and he just decides, you know what? I'm not getting around him, so I'm just gonna plant him to the ground. He's able to create a favorable angle. You know, he's not all the way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just soul crushing right there. He's got that power.
Yeah, he's got him. I mean, right on, and it's funny because it's like right under the chin. So there's a really nice little leverage point right here.
Yep.
By the throat almost. I mean, I'd be curious to see if he actually hit him in the throat on that play.
And the guy was already leaning back too. There's no way he's stopping Bruce there with that kind of momentum going.
No, not at all. All right, so let's move on to the next one here. That was a fun one. All right, so let's see what we got here. All the way through. Oh, that's a nice bounce.
Yep. And you see that consistently on tape from him, the ability to win the corner, whether it be when he bounces initially or when he gets to the second level.
Yeah.
And he's got serious juice around that corner.
A guy who used to do this really well in college and even early in his pro career when he actually was on the field and disciplined enough to be healthy enough to be on the field, and I say that because I know it was a discipline issue, was Ryan Matthews. Ryan Matthews had that kind of burst and that second level change of direction So I used to kind of call it tilt the axis of pursuit, or
Yeah.
just alter it. And when you can make that near 90-degree cut like that,
And he's got the safety right in front of him, but he also sees the angle he needs to take to beat that corner on the outside.
yeah, yeah. I mean, look at that. I mean, that's a good example of that, because really he has to see that safety before he's even pulling through this defender who's reaching
Right.
for him, and you can see he makes that wide receiver like
Yep.
karaoke turn.
And he's smooth through his, he's nice and flexible and
Yes.
able to maintain speed throughout that turn because
So
of that flexibility.
when you talk about flexibility, I mean, I think a lot of people are now starting to talk in a good way about ankle flexibility, ankle flexion. What's a way for, what's a point here that you would look at and say, okay, this is good ankle flexion? Where am I looking for like a stopping point?
Like right around here, because you're gonna see when he starts to make that bounce, the angle that his body is at relative to where his foot is as well. Like some of those guys, they get to that point and they completely slow down because they don't have the flexibility to just smoothly take that angle and still maintain speed.
Yeah, because you got to drive off of that ankle, or
Right.
that bend of that ankle.
And if you don't have that bend, you're going to kind of bog down. I mean, you see with edge rushers too. Can they run the arc or can they not? Like he's running the arc here.
Yeah, without a doubt. And for some people who wonder, we talked about ball security, and if you're looking at this and going, well, why didn't he switch the ball?
Right. I was thinking that.
You know, and I think that's a good question to ask. But it's like, one thing I've asked, and there's no definitive answers here, but I mean, I remember asking Chad Spann, who was on this show, who's a running back coach and who used to play in the league with a number of teams in the CFL, and a guy I profiled on here a long time ago. And he would tell me that really you want to only switch the ball when you're in a situation where you feel like you have room to do so. Now, and that's a judgment call.
Yeah.
Here, I would say, yeah, he probably does. He even put his other hand on the ball like he was thinking about it, but
And then,
maybe he gauged the distance to the point that he felt like if he did it, he was going to slow down, and it just made more sense to drive through what he was doing.
yeah, and I think he had the confidence there that he was going to be able to run around him because if not, you see again that the second hand comes up. If he was going to need to initiate contact there, he could switch and hit the stiff arm, but that's again going to slow you down. So I think he felt confident that he was going to be able to maintain that speed through that turn and not have to deal with any kind of significant contact to that ball arm.
Yeah, and this is not a common type of move that you see at the
No.
college level and even in the pro level. I mean, Adrian Peterson was a master at this, and he still is very
Yep.
good at this. Ryan Matthews, a player who I really liked as a prospect before I found out what he was like off the field in terms of his initial years, and he was, nothing wrong with the guy in terms of being a bad guy off the field. It was just that he was someone who didn't understand how to work at the game,
Yeah.
and he also had some confidence issues as a result of that were kind of the root issue for that. And he really kind of blew his shot to be the kind of back that his talent spoke on film to be.
Yeah.
So, but Bruce Anderson has some of that, and that was a really nice. I really like that choice. To show off that flexion and just the ability to see it and make it happen. All right, so let's go to this one here.
Now this is what I wanted to ask you about because where he takes it a little too early with the way that things were set up. Could he given himself more space to hit this corner if he wants to hit this corner at the next level more consistently? Or do you feel like that was the proper read of things? Because I think in the NFL, that angle becomes a lot harder than 23 makes it.
Yeah, that's a good question. And it was funny because this is one of the plays that I was going to pick too, and then I realized you had it as well. So let's take a look at it from a couple of angles here. It did look a little early for sure.
Yeah.
And let's see if we can get it from the other angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is one absolutely would be one that he could take, that he should press a little longer.
Yeah.
And that's that's a great call, because it's hit or miss, but if we're going to project for the best run supporting cornerback off the edge that we can think of, or say Eric Berry comes wandering up there and he decides that he's going to try and crash down, he may even anticipate that, the crease that he's going to go to pre-snap and start to like blow through that sucker a little bit early. So it's kind of one of those situations that if you can press inside and someone's trying to blow in there like that and time it, they may alter their path once you get another step or two in there, because they realize that they're not just going to be sitting there waiting. But yeah,
the result is good, but yeah, you can press a little bit and you can help yourself by pressing there and giving yourself a little more room to the outside there to soften that edge.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this is a common issue with most young backs. I mean,
yep.
A good example of a guy who is, really talented is Drake, Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake.
I love him.
Yeah. He or Marlon Mack, they're guys that they've got the goods in terms of the athletic ability to change direction and to get around a corner. But that's why like a Frank Gore is so much fun to watch, even though if you're like really delve into the tape, because even though you'd like to see these young guys get their opportunity, when you watch a guy who's as slow as Frank Gore is be able to make more out of difficult situations than the young guys with better athletic talent, it speaks to, understanding that Gore would be basically, brushing by the towel of 85 right here, when he dips inside. Yeah. Is able to get, and might be able to get around that corner where 23 would be lost in the shuffle here. Might even gotten picked up by a blocker if he cuts it the right way. So it's there's a couple of ways he could have played that. You could hit the backside door there if you're a little more patient. You can hit that hole right up front, depending on what the linebacker does there. I like the balance. It's just like you said, though, these athletes that have been able to do it consistently and win that edge consistently, it's a different life in the NFL. It's just a small thing to clean up. It's nice seeing the athleticism to win that there. And, obviously, if more contact, he probably wouldn't be able to stiff arm his way out of there. But, yeah, it's just a little thing. I wanted to get your opinion on it. So I'm glad we're seeing the same thing. No, I agree. I agree completely, because what likely happens is, say the guy does maintain his course pretty well and doesn't get sucked in too early or doesn't wind up in the pile, he may stay wide. And then you get things that you see Nick Chubb do pretty well, which is kind of cut downhill, get downhill, cut outside, and then slice it back inside the inside shoulder of 23 and get inside of him that way. And you see a lot of runners do that very well, depending on the angle that they take. So, no, that's a good question. And that's, I agree with you 100%. All right. Let's see what we have here from, I think I know this play coming up. Yes, this was fun.
Give it to me.
The bullet route.
Give it to me on the wheel.
I love it. Yeah.
I mean, he just looks so natural as a wide receiver, and they love this wheel route from him. They run it a lot.
Yes.
And he's consistently running past these hook zone defenders and linebackers, and, nice, easy catch. Out in front, gets turned, deals with contact immediately, has balance, not too out far in front of his skis. You see a lot of urgent runners tend to get tripped up like that. He's just got excellent balance there. I mean, that's what I wanted to see. I saw that rep because I hadn't seen a lot of catches from him. I saw this rep and I was like, this is what I thought he was capable of. And to be able to see it is just awesome. I mean, he's so explosive through that. Knows when to look. Doesn't turn his shoulders back, turns his chin back, in a great position for it. I know he's wide open, but I mean, there's certain things that you're looking for, and he checks those boxes for me.
Yeah, and I think that's the deceptive part about evaluating talent is sometimes it's easy when that readers or listeners or other people who watch may look at things and say, well, he didn't get a lot of yards, or he didn't, the play wasn't successful, or the play was wildly successful and there was
Right.
no opposition. And it's like, it's really about you're judging the player in terms of what he can do as much as possible away from the surrounding talent or the opposition.
Right.
And there are instances where you're going to judge it, especially due to the opposition and what they did to foil it. But it's about decision making within, within that player's control. And I love the point you made about how smooth he was in terms of staying kind of balanced and aligned with his footwork and stride through that, and the way that he turned his chin. Those are nice little details.
Yeah.
That really matter. Yeah, I love this play. And yeah, you watch enough, like I was watching enough Easton Stick that I was like, oh, I can't wait to watch Bruce Anderson, like really isolate on him. And I was so excited for the Senior Bowl because I thought we were going to see a lot more of that. And we got a glimpse of it. Then he got hurt. But you can see why the Senior Bowl's director was, Jim Nagy was really excited about Bruce Anderson and thought he was one of the best running backs in this class.
Yeah.
Because of this versatility.
Yeah, and here you could just talk. I mean, come on,
Yes.
a little flair at the end.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
he deals with penetrate, and he doesn't deal with this a lot at North Dakota State because they have a great line. He deals with immediate penetration right there, and is able to just go and create on his own.
Yeah.
And then the balance.
Yeah, that's ridiculously good balance. And then just let's fly through the air and get as much as possible at the end.
You see a lot of, and I mentioned it before on the previous rep, you see a lot of guys that can get tripped up. I mean, they're very good runners, but the ultra, like, we got to go type runners can get tripped up by these tackles to these low tackles a lot. It doesn't seem to happen to him.
No.
He's just so well at dealing with it and running through it, keeping his feet going without getting overextended, with his head not too far out in front. And he's just able to deal with it really well. And just the reactionary quickness there to start with, and get to speed. And again, win that corner consistently. It's super impressive.
Absolutely. And one of the things why I think that players slip out of tackles very well is that they have a skill for, let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, they have a skill for being able to run through this. And part of that skill is when they get wrapped right here on that inside leg, watch how he lifts this knee and kind of he flexes the ankle. So it's almost like he's slipping out of a shoe, but the knee goes high.
Yep.
And that's why they always talk about high knees.
Yep.
Let's see if we can get that knee to come up there and freeze it. There's part of it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yep.
Just enough. When you can do that, that helps a lot.
And then he's in a position to get that other leg down, and he's off.
Yeah. I mean, that's a tough play right there, to be hit really kind of in the knee right there, and the upper thigh, or the thigh.
Yeah. Like a ballerina.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a back who used to play for the Giants, who was from, I think, Illinois, who he was like, I remember a scout described him as having a jetpack strapped to his behind, but he couldn't figure out where to run. He just needed to point him to the open crease, and it was LaShawn Johnson, who used to play for the Giants. And he was a big dude, but one thing that he always did, and I haven't seen these moves very often from a back, but is this right here. He could do this all day long, and it was really super impressive as a feat of balance. But anyway, yeah, that's another good one.
Yeah, flexibility to be able to take that angle coming down. It's awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, let me see here. And you can see the bounce outs, even though he could, like the last one we showed, he could press a little bit tighter. Here's a good example of one that he presses pretty well.
Right. Yeah, and that was what I was trying to show here, because I think, and look at the angle where he's sitting. Like, he's got that hip sink and can burst out of there. He pressed it really well. Sees daylight. He knows he's got that one guy out there unblocked, which he defeated. Look how far he sucks him in compared to that other rep.
Yeah, that's beautiful. He's nearly stepping on the heels of his own lineman right there. but that's what you want.
Right.
You know, they might as well be, their legs might as well be cones that are moving slowly.
Yep. And just able to bend it and burst. That guy didn't have a chance. He got sucked so far in. There's no way.
Yeah. Excellent.
His hip sync like a wide receiver at the break point right there.
Yeah, and this is a pretty good sized guy. I mean, we're not talking about him being, you know, an undersized running back. This is a guy that, do you think, when you look at his frame, do you think he can add muscle and maintain that, or even maybe enhance that explosion because of the size that he's at? What do you recall from what you saw that?
I don't think it was really necessary with him, but maybe a little bit in the lower body, but he seems pretty like decently built there. So yeah. I don't necessarily think it's going to be required of him to be able to hold up at the next level. And, you know, you could add 5 to him, and that would look really fun from a take-on standpoint. That's for sure.
Yeah. And, I mean, you know, you think about players like, you know, Aaron Jones, who certainly performs very well. And I don't think the injuries he had or anything that he's dealt with has really been due to the fact that he's not heavy enough.
Right.
Oh, so now we get ourselves a pass pro rep. Look at this. Okay.
So what you want to see here is close space as a running back. If you're picking up, you're working inside to outside. You want to close that space down to give your quarterback some room. You don't want to be getting pushed back right into his lap. Close space, engage with your hands, anchor. You see the flexibility throughout the body there to be able to anchor a little bit, and then just start to drive them.
Yeah.
Little extension there. Like he holds up against that pretty doggone well.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that he reads it, you know, he reads that well with that linebacker coming around the first one. But he also, you know, now he's able to handle, you know, as that first one kind of peels off.
Right. Yeah, he knows he's got one of those 2 guys coming through there. Yeah. I just love the way that because one of the things you don't see with backs sometimes, and I saw this with a couple of the prospects I was watching, just the ability to close that space down. Too far often they don't get the proper depth, and they're right there with their quarterbacks. They're there bugging their quarterback, you know?
Yeah, they're like right here. Now they're waiting, and then the defender comes with a 5-yard head start, running start. And, you know, and even if that guy's smaller than you, if he gets the good leverage and hits you with that running start, your butt's hitting your quarterback's, you know, stomach at this point. You know, so I totally agree. One of the really good backs who in the NFL who's always been great at closing space and really kind of getting there is Giovanni Bernard.
Yeah. Yep. Some of those smaller backs like Duke Johnson, Darren Sproles, they do it really well.
Yeah. I'm a big Darren Sproles fan. One of these days I'm gonna do an RSP film room. We did one. Eric Stoner and I did one with a little bit of Darren Sproles, where we were watching Donnell Pumphrey, and we had this great film room we did, and the sound didn't work. And so it never really worked out, but we ended up veering into how Darren Sproles and Marshawn Lynch had a lot of things in common in terms of their balance and footwork. And we were showing Darren Sproles clips at Kansas State, and we were having so much fun, and we were like, oh, this is going to be great, but didn't turn out that way. But I think, you know, it turns out that Eric's getting into creating cut-ups of former NFL stars while they were in college. So I think I'm going to do a few RSP film rooms with him where we're going to pick some players like Isaac Bruce when he was at Memphis, or
amazing,
you know, or Fred Taylor when he was at Florida, or, you know, things like that. And I think Darren Sproles at Kansas State has probably got to be high on the list here.
Yeah, definitely. This is the kick return against Northern. They're down at half, coming out of the half. And he likes this little spin out of contact.
Yes.
He does it twice here. It's all over his tape, and you see the breakaway speed there. Again, track background. But competitive toughness, your team needs a play. He comes out and just shucks off a couple of dudes. This spin is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like right there, I don't know if it's necessary, but the second one through contact, like I get that.
Yeah, it's almost like that spin allowed him to continue to change direction without slowing down as
Right.
much as he would if he had to make a harder cut or change his footwork. So he was like, it was almost one of those things where it was his default move, and instead of trying to think about it and slow down, he's just like, I'll just roll with it.
Yeah. I think he was expecting contact and it just kind of worked out that way. And then here just shedding contact like crazy.
Yeah.
And that's from 2015. So, I mean, I think that year he had 16 returns, 585 yards, and his average was 36.5, which if he had had a couple more, he would have led uh, the FCS in average.
Sweetness.
He had a couple touchdowns.
Yeah.
So you got some return value too if you're really looking for it.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it's well blocked here, but he does a good job of being able to hit that crease and figure out a way to get to that outside lane. So that's a nice example there. All right, so what do we have here? All right, this looks like these look like some of mine here that we're gonna look at here. And we're gonna have him as a run blocker.
Yeah, I like some of these reps. He comes and cuts this. Yep.
Yeah, right on the hip. I mean, that's what you don't always see is what you really want to see from a cut block, whether it's a pass or a run block, lead block, is when you can hit that hip and that upper thigh and come across the body, and suddenly you see that defender's legs displaced behind him about 2 yards or a yard, but
yeah.
You've hit that thing true.
Yeah, really good aiming point on that. Good power through it. I mean, that's beautiful from what you want. And a lot of times, I mean, this goes into competitive toughness too. A lot of times you'll get these backs, they don't have the ball, they don't do much. You know, he's doing this without the ball. It's an unselfish rep, it's a physical rep, and it's a technically sound rep.
Yeah. And it's also a nice display of vision of what he needs to be looking for, because he's coming at a kind of an odd angle or a tougher angle to come outside and work in. Outside runs are difficult in that respect to find the creases when you're trying to accelerate east-west and get down north-south. And then as a blocker, you kind of have to have that vision too. Oftentimes they describe fullbacks as running backs who who appreciate their fullbacks. They often say that their fullback is running the ball for them. They're just following them.
Yeah, they're making decisions based off that. That's an Oklahoma rep, and he tackles the ball carrier, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But yeah, so often you see, defenders be able to get their hands on the cutter and push the body downward and be able to step over it or jump over it or at least leap through it and across it. And this one is more like, he's carried. Yeah, that's beautiful. Like if I would love to be, like in fantasy world, I would love to play running back at a high level for, at college or the NFL. But I think if I had to have like a play where I couldn't be a ball carrier, I'd want to be a lead blocker and just like, cut a defensive end like that and just, watch him fly out like that. That would be kind of fun.
I'm glad you picked that one, because there were a few of those reps on there I considered putting on there, and that's definitely again. I mean, we're going through a lot of different things from the toolbox.
Yeah, exactly. So what we've got is a versatile player who's a breakaway threat, who can run for some power, who certainly understands, how to find secondary creases. You've got the receiving game down for sure. He's a technically sound blocker in terms of being able to close space. I thought the way you brought that up is really such an important point, and it's a fundamental point that if you can close space, the rest of the tools that you've got to work on become a little bit easier,
right?
Because you're not creating problems for yourself.
Yep.
So let's see what we have here. This might be a pass protection situation. Yep, against the defensive end. And this is one that I wanted to criticize. I think that's and this is one that I saw. This is the type of stuff I saw at the Senior Bowl that didn't work for him, was when he leans in with his head.
Yeah, he's got to make a slight adjustment there, but there's no reason for him to lean there. He's just got to settle in.
Yeah.
And engage and pop his hands.
Yeah, and he ends up just catching the contact and getting shed pretty quickly. And his head's down. He can't see.
Right.
Can't see what you're hitting when you're doing that.
If he keeps his head, he's in perfectly fine position. He can escort that guy beyond the peak of the pocket if he needs to.
Yeah.
He just doesn't put himself in a position to.
All right. Good stuff. Let's see what's next here. Yeah, I got a few more left, and I think most of these might be pass pro. There might be a couple. There might be a run or a pass. There is a pass here somewhere, I know. If not, I'll be disappointed that I somehow lost it in translation.
Yeah, space. Yeah.
Yep, he creates the space. That's good. Gets the hands out, eyes up.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of an uppercut motion there. I mean, he comes from that hands out, and they start to do that motion right there. He's not really able to roll through that because he's far away still when the defender begins to change direction.
Yeah, I feel like he can do a better job. First part, close the space. Second part, jolt. Give a pop with your hands, and I think that's something that was missing from him because he wouldn't have as much trouble with that rep if he pops with his hands a little bit better here.
Yeah. It's just that it's hard to get the hands and feet coordinated.
Yeah.
And that's a tough skill. And it's funny when you see a player who's really raw at it, it's when it really becomes apparent. I remember watching Jimmy Graham at the Senior Bowl, and he was next to there was a USC player, Bird. Donald Bird, I think, or Bird, I'm trying to remember what his name was. But Bird was from USC, and Bird never really did anything near that Jimmy Graham did in the NFL, but he could block. Yeah. And they were using those dummies that kind of pop back up, that you have the that are kind of the body bag type of things. And they just wanted you to give that quick pop and the bag would just fall to the ground and hit the ground. Yeah. And that was the goal. Jimmy Graham, for the life of him, could not do that. He could not get he could get the bag to move about 30 degrees. Bird would just hit it and it would just hit the ground easily, just lay down for him, and he was trying to show Graham, he was trying to help Graham out a little bit too on how to do that. And I was like, yeah, we're going to be watching. He's a wide receiver who's going to get paid like a tight end. So there we go.
Still the case.
But yeah, there we go. So that's definitely a tough skill, but the fact that that he can close the gap, diagnose well, and he's willing as a cut blocker, and he shows good angles there, I think those are good enough skills to say he's projectably. You can project him and say he's going to become a better blocker in the NFL than he already is right now.
Yeah, definitely the willingness to. Got some pulling action. Oh yeah, I thought about this one too. I mean, go up, extend, get it, turn in the air. Exactly.
And just that pull down.
Yep.
At the very end, right here, for him to make that pull down with the defender close,
and turn his back to him, give himself an easier time at the catch point.
Yeah.
And his head too his chin snaps back, his shoulders don't snap back. So he's in a position to go up and get that and make that turn in the air because of that.
And he just keeps the ball static, which I like too, which is don't pull it in, keep it away from the defender.
Don't give him a chance to get it here if you can. Yeah. So that type of stuff, limited, catches and whatnot in college, but you see this type of rep and you feel comfortable projecting that skill and that's a downfield rep. That's not, can he hands catch a flare route or something like that? Like this is a downfield catch showing nuance in the air and understanding of how to win at the catch point. It's out in front of his body. He catches out in front of his eyes. Body control, all that.
And the tracking part I like too, because watch how when he starts, he's kind of leaning towards that outside, but he turns inside and maintains that inside look.
Mm-hmm.
And then turns back to the outside. So he's kind of drawing the defender towards him, almost making the defender complacent.
Yep.
In the sense that he's running that route shaded towards he's going to catch it over his inside shoulder, and the defender's like, "Oh, I got him. I'm going to be able to lay a hit. I'm going to be able to get over here. I'm going to cut this off pretty easily." And then he's like, "No, sorry.
It's over here."
Yep.
He's creating himself a window of separation at the catch point. Yeah. It's nice. So natural with it.
Exactly. Things people were lamenting David Johnson didn't get to do as much last year. So there we go.
Correct. I love David Johnson out of Northern Iowa, man. I loved him.
Yes. Well, you chose wisely. You know, that's for sure. So what do we have here? Oh, this is another pass pro rep.
He's figuring out who's.
And I like the hand usage on this particular play. I thought that this was a good example of him being able to really get set well, pick a bigger guy. And while the head's down a little bit, that was the thing that I think I was going to notice is that, again, I want to kind of see him avoid that.
Yeah, good positioning. Good job with the hands. Delivers a pop, kind of stones him.
Yep. That's all good. Just the high school prom slow dance thing right there on the shoulder is the thing. It might be his favorite song, but but that's hard to time.
He's got good feet too, man. He's got good feet to get in position if he's got to reposition himself right here.
Yes.
Just a little slide. Then keep your head up and you're perfect.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, the fact, and that's the thing, is that we can nitpick some of these things and say, this is where it could really all go wrong for him. You know, if a savvier defender's like, oh, you dropped your head? Sure, I'm just going to swim over the top of you. You know, put the arm over here. Or I'm going to, as I swim over the top of you, just for good measure, I'm going to grab the back of your jersey and I'm going to shove you right aside my hip and send you flying just for good measure and say, welcome to the NFL. But a lot of times that won't happen. And the fact that he does so many of these other things right, and especially like you said, you know,
the depth,
it gives him room for error.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very nicely. All right. And our final play of this session. All right. What do we have here? I think this will be a block, but let's see. No, we have ourselves a run. And it's the run that you... Yeah. There we go. See, there it was. Circle. Yep.
Yeah, we both saw this and said,
Yep.
I wonder.
But
it's funny because we have picked reps where the process could have been better. This result is good, but the process could have been better. And then we saw that later rep in the red zone where he was able to press, be flexible, and burst out and just win that corner uncontested. So he can do it. There are definitely flashes on there. You just want to see it a little more consistent.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And when you see a guy who shows a perfect rep and then has one where it's not quite as good, it's just more about recognizing the situation more than it is recognizing that situation than whether he can do it or not. And that's always very promising in that respect. I mean, it's like watching guys correct their own mistakes. Yeah. You know, I see that a lot with quarterback play. A good example, I was watching Dwayne Haskins recently, and watching him, there were some plays that I saw earlier in the season that I saw him be able to execute or recognize things that he wasn't able to recognize earlier in the year. So that's always nice, you know, when you get to see that kind of thing. It's not just a constant problem that you're like, well, I guess he'll have the offseason to figure out what's going on here.
Yeah, and I saw less of the issues because for this I went back and watched the playoff games that I hadn't gone back and seen from Bruce yet. I'd seen just 5 regular season games that I had film on, but going through and watching the playoffs, you see those issues pop up less and less, and you're like, this is a player that is learning his craft, and you feel good about his coachability and what he's able to learn from his experiences.
Yeah, I agree completely. And he's one of those guys that, you know, you look at, and certainly I think there's a lot of talent at the running back position in the NFL. And that's more the issue than saying there's just not a lot of good running backs out there.
Right.
You know, so he's one of these guys that I don't know what people project in terms of where he would be taken, but I would have to think that this is someone who he'll show up well in a training camp. And if he doesn't this year, he will next year.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I think that he definitely has starter potential in this league, and should at no worst be a pretty darn good committee option. I mean, I think his worst case scenario is he ends up on a team that's really void of talent in the offensive line. Let's look at that again.
Yeah, this is one I wanted to put on Twitter, but I decided not to because you can see what happens to 9 here, and it's pretty brutal.
Yeah. Yeah, understandable. But it's it's a nice hit, but
he just absorbs the heck out of it. He's in such a balanced position to take on contact.
Yeah.
And he's able to just churn right through it.
Oh, didn't mean to do that. What am I doing? There we go. There we go.
Yeah, that one I was like, wow, he just ate that contact and was just able to turn. Well, elbow.
Yep. Right in the crook of the forearm right there.
Yep.
Good stuff. All right. Well, let's end this here. What do you think in terms of fit for him? Where would you like to see, what type of offense would you like to see him in? Where would you like to see him go? I mean, what say you on this particular end of the spectrum?
Yeah, I mean, I like his fit in a gap scheme, and you let him get forward. I don't necessarily limit to him that to that though. I think he can make decisions and process information quickly, and also has the flexibility and the bounce in his step to be able to run zone. So I like him as a gap. Then I like him as a 1A. Then I like him as a zone, as a 1B. So it's good to have that versatility. You know, you're not scheme limiting him. I think that was a conversation me and you were having about Derrick Henry and whether or not he could fit a zone scheme. You know what I mean? I feel better about Bruce's athleticism, his flexibility, and decision making to project him there. I also like his creativity as far as a gap scheme. You got one hole. If it's not there, go make something out of it. And I believe he has the ability to bounce out of that and make plays from there. So I feel comfortable there. And then you start to feed him reps as a 3rd down back. I think he could be a 3 down back. I think he could be. I think the potential for him is a 1A back in a committee that can bring you value in a lot of different places that you don't necessarily have to take off the field and give the defense a tell, which is, I mean, something that the Eagles were going through with Josh Adams this year. If Josh Adams was on the field, you pretty much knew it was a run because you knew his limitations in pass pro and as a receiver and whatnot. So I like the fact that he doesn't give you that tell. And if he gets a shot, and even if he's a backup running back or something like that, maybe the first year he's getting like an average of 5 yards or 5 carries, you know, a game or something like that, I think eventually he can be your 1A, and that'll be. He's going to be very productive. He's got all the. What have we gone through where you would say I grade him below average on this?
Yeah, I mean the only thing. Right. Yeah, nothing that would be serious enough to. I mean, it would be nitpicking, and it would be a sub point of a point where he would be at least average. So yeah. The answer is nothing. You're absolutely right. So it's. And when you look at it, it's like I could see how he'd be fit for a team like the Eagles, or if the Colts were like, you know what, Marlon Mack's good at this. Nyheim Hines is good at that. Jordan Wilkins is good at this. Can we just get one to rule them all? You know, that would be, you know, yeah. So he'd be good there. But then you also look at, like, say, the Jets. Jets could use a guy with Bilal Powell probably being on the outs, and you look at what they have there. I mean, Elijah McGuire's a nice change of pace back, and maybe he can be what Bilal Powell was, which is an underrated runner who can do some work for you where you need it, you know, in a more expanded role. But Bruce Anderson might be an upgrade to that, you know.
Right.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I mean, you know, a lot of people still love Jones and what's going on there. I'm a big Peyton Barber fan. But I think that a guy like Bruce Anderson, you know, does offer you more burst and more suddenness in a package that can get the job done as well. So, I mean, those are teams that I think might have a need at the position, you know.
It's hard to envision an offense that if someone were to go down or whatever, where you would be like, I don't know if Bruce is going to, I can't see that. You know what I mean? It's just very limited in that regard. And like I say, you've got the requisite burst. you've got the requisite contact balance. You've got the passing upside there that is, I still think, somewhat untapped. What else do you need from a running back? I mean, you're going to get a chance to produce if you're at that position and you're getting reps. And I think he can give you what a replacement level player would give you, and more than that. So I'm big on him. I love him.
Well, listen, we're big on what you did here today. This was awesome. I'm glad that you were able to come on, and I'm glad you got to choose a guy that was fun to watch on this level, and I appreciate that. So, listen, if you aren't following Michael, you can definitely follow him on Twitter at Michael Kist, Kist NFL. So Michael Kist NFL. He's the at BGN_radio producer and host. At Bleeding Green is also another Twitter tag that he's a part of there that you might want to check out. But I mean, again, check out his podcast, check out his work. You can obviously see that Michael knows what he's talking about, works at his craft, and is just a good all around guy to be able to chop it up with. So if you can do that, he's kind of like Bruce Anderson. It's like where would you say he's even just average at anything? He's above average at everything. If
quarterback
not very
evaluation.
Good at everything. We're all below average at quarterback evaluations. We have a lucky year here and there, and then it goes back to the norm. We regress to the mean, I guess. So, but it's a fun challenge for us. But yeah, again, thank you to Michael. Thank you guys for listening, and you can subscribe to the RSP Film Room. That's the name of the channel at YouTube, and you can find the work that I do at MountWaldmanRSP.com, and you can check out more of that stuff there. So thanks again, everybody, and have a good week. Let's see if we can get this thing squared away. Well, we came in